This is the broken windows theory. It's one 12-page document from 1982 that has shaped the focus of the police for the last 30 years. But the kicker? None of it works. And we'll get into how it doesn't work. But first, what is broken windows? The theory was created by social scientists James Wilson and George Kelling. Both of them were employed by conservative think tanks, and they published a paper on how to prevent crime. In this paper, they claim that the solution to serious crime is prevention of minor crimes. That a single case of public drinking, a single piece of graffiti, or a single person selling goods without a license would inevitably invite serious crime to occur. And this paper and the viewpoint were adopted by the NYPD in the 1990s, under the guidance of William Bratton and the then mayor, Rudy Giuliani. But what did they actually do? Well, they started cracking down on surface level crimes. Crimes like graffiti, loitering, or vandalism. Anyone caught committing any of these offences would be ticketed and booked, no matter how minor. In fact, there's a 70% increase in misdemeanor offences during the time that broken windows was in effect. But did this have any real change? Or did this help anyone at all? Well, if you only look at the police statistics, you'll see that it would have. Homicides fell by 73%, burglary by 66%, and assault by 40%. But the police data alone doesn't give a representative image. And if you really look into how this data was collected and what the police were doing, you can see that this really isn't very useful. But now we've gone over what broken windows was, we can go into how it isn't true. You see, while police data shows a decrease in the number of serious crimes, there is very much evidence to link this to broken windows, especially given the number of outside factors occurring at the same time. There's also various problems to the police data itself. Part of broken windows included a quota system. Police were expected to get a certain amount of tickets or bookings in a certain amount of time, and anyone who failed to meet these quotas would be publicly shamed, leading police to focus on low-level crimes because they're just easier. For the time it takes to do one investigation for a serious crime, police could book dozens of people for low-level offences. But not only that, it's also harder to get convictions for serious offences. I mean, over 50% of murders in New York are still unsolved, and up to 90% of rape kits at any time can be untested. But even if police do everything right, they might not even move forward with a case due to insufficient evidence. The negative effects of broken windows can really clearly be seen, and one of these issues is how the police targeted crimes. Like I previously said, broken windows focus entirely on low-level offences. This led to massive increases in racial bias and racism within policing. In an attempt to meet quotas, police would search anyone they deemed suspicious, but this overwhelmingly affected young non-white males, particularly those who are black or Hispanic. But there's also a massive class divide in what crimes are being looked at. Police would primarily patrol what were called high crime neighbourhoods, which were essentially just poor non-white areas. And they'd just give out a ton of tickets. People talking on the street could be given tickets for loitering. Children drawing on the pavement could be given tickets for vandalism. What impact did this have? Well, the increase in tickets indicated an increase in the level of crime, which in turn justified a stronger police presence, which resulted in an even higher number of these crimes being found. But this still supports an increased police presence and increased surveillance in many areas today. But the focus on street crime also has a massive blind spot because it ignores every other type of crime. Because a lot of crime doesn't happen on the street. You could argue that a few people might not have gotten mugged, or there might have been a small decrease in the burglary rate because they're breaking windows. But the vast majority of crime happen in private. But it also ignores white-collar crime, things like tax evasion, fraud, or embezzlement. And not only can these happen repeatedly, with one person committing the same crime time and time again, but they can have massive repercussions and potentially affect thousands of people. Like in the case of the financial crash, with various forms of white-collar crimes massively increasing the impact that it had. The reality is, punishment will never stop crime, because most people don't commit crimes because they want to, but because they feel like they need to, due to issues such as poverty, food insecurity, lack of employment opportunities, or lack of education in general. And this next example shows the decrease in the crime rate that can happen if just one of these are focused on. In Philadelphia, there used to be 30,000 vacant parcels of land. These are spread throughout the city, with some neighborhoods even having 2 or 3 of them. Historically, these parcels of land have been overgrown with weeds, filled with trash, or home to possums, rats, and raccoons. But the Horticulture Society decided to try to restore them by cleaning them up, replanting grass, and installing fences around them. And with just a small change, a shift occurred, because these lots weren't abandoned and returned to their previous states. Instead, they were maintained and used. Some became areas for communal gardening, others were used to host barbecues, and some were used to play football. In fact, as of the last data could find, over 17,000 plots have now been cleaned up. And since this change occurred, the homicide rate has fallen by 29%. Again, this could have been influenced by outside factors, and there's no way to know if this specific change is what caused the homicide rate to fall. But it does show one thing. Investment in the qualities of people's lives results in a decrease in crime. Now, you might be asking why I decided to make this video. After all, broken windows has been disproven many times. and the theory itself isn't even used anymore. Why bring it back up again? The reason is simple. If the theory itself isn't used, the essence of it is. Think about every time you've heard the politicians say that there needs to be more police or that they should be tougher on crime. You've probably heard it a lot, and quite recently, and while the exact issues or the exact methods may differ, the underlying beliefs and justifications are ultimately the same. And this shift is international, from across Europe and countries like the UK and Germany, the United States of America, countries like Ecuador and Honduras, and in places like Nigeria. While the names are shifted, the beliefs are still the same, which means the exact same issues of broken windows are still happening today. That's why I made this video, because while it might look like broken windows was left in the early 2000s, still well and alive today.